Let's go to DC. I leave tomorrow morning and I still need to pack. Be traveling and being chronically ill, you have to think of every single possible scenario when you're packing. It requires so much planning, so let's get into it.
I haven't traveled or flown in 2 years, and in that time my health has significantly declined. So traveling for the first time in 2 years at this new baseline by myself, I was afraid. This is the first time that I have traveled and flown with a personal mobility aid, so that was one of my big anxieties going into this. Are they going to damage my mobility aid? Unfortunately, that is a very real thing that disabled people have to consider when they're traveling. There really is nothing like standing there holding your breath, waiting for them to bring your mobility aid out and hoping that they didn't damage it.
So obviously I brought my rollator and I was really hoping I'd be able to have it on the plane with me because several of my friends have horror stories about how their mobility aids, their wheelchairs had to go under the plane and then they got it back after the flight and they were broken. So I'm hoping that they're really gentle with it because it's only 10 pounds and I don't want it getting squished. The closets are full on the plane. It's a really small plane, I guess. So fingers crossed that it survives the flight.
I've never been a super anxious flyer, but obviously that was very different for this flight. I get the worst motion sickness regardless of what form of transportation I take, so I was just really hoping it would be mild or at least relatively manageable for this flight. There's really no place more fitting than this to talk about some tips for flying with dysautonomia, so let's do it. Request disability assistance through your airline or airport, like priority boarding or wheelchair assistance. I requested both of those and they helped so much. Make sure you pack your medications in their original bottles in your carry-on. Stay hydrated, eat salty snacks, and take electrolytes like your Vitassium fast chews. They're great for on the go. And make sure you dress in comfortable layers for temperature regulation, wear compression garments to help blood flow, and don't forget to mask up. I survived the flight. My nausea was relatively mild, which was such a relief. And I really wasn't prepared for how much warmer it would be in DC compared to Chicago, and I was grumpy about that because I have the worst heat intolerance, of course, thanks to my dysautonomia. It felt so good to be horizontal. At this point, I was actually a little nervous because I was already so exhausted and not feeling the best, and it was just the beginning. This is just day one. And this was just one of those times where I tried to gaslight myself into believing I feel great. I've never felt better.
So I arrived at the hotel not long ago. Fortunately, we've got about 2.5 hours, maybe like 2 hours and 15 minutes before we have to head over for our training. I'm sure they're going to share the most critical information they need us to share when we are meeting with these representatives from Congress. And that's 6:45 to 9, and I hope it goes fast because I'm so exhausted. I'm already flaring up a little, as you can see. So we'll see what happens.
When it was time, we headed over to where we would have our training, and of course there was a big group photo before all of that took place. Here's Lauren and I repping Vitassium with the Capitol behind us. And then came time for our training and learning what our asks are. The first thing we were urging members of Congress to support was a $1 million in CDC dysautonomia clinician education funding to help reduce diagnostic delays and improve access to care for dysautonomia patients across the US. We also asked Congress to oppose dramatic cuts to the NIH's research grant programs and to protect and support dysautonomia research by ensuring continued support for the NIH's interest in POTS, infection-associated chronic conditions like ME/CFS, chronic Lyme, and long COVID, and the continuation of existing long COVID research funding.
I'm so exhausted. Training took a lot of spoons. It was like 3-hour training session just to prepare us for our meetings tomorrow. And now it is 9:13 p.m. We have to be on the Capitol steps by 9 a.m. for a group picture. Mornings aren't good for me, so I'm gonna get changed and then I'm gonna try to go to bed immediately and hope for the best when I wake up tomorrow. Night.
Waking up was so rough. My first thought as soon as my alarm went off was, I can't wait to go to bed tonight. Obviously, I made sure that I had my electrolyte fast shoes. I ended up having so many of these throughout the day. And we almost missed the group picture on the Capitol steps because it didn't occur to our exhausted, foggy, chronic illness brains that there might be traffic in the morning. But we made it literally as the photographer was lifting their camera to take the picture, which I was so happy about because I really would have cried if we missed the picture. After that, we had a little bit of time to mingle on the Capitol steps before our meeting, so everyone was chatting. It was really good to talk to people. And it was at this moment that I realized in our frantic rush to get out the door to make it to the Capitol steps for the picture in time, I walked right out of my hotel room with I was super grateful to have my partner, Carrie, because we both were a little bit anxious going into our first meeting in Senator Duckworth's office, but it went really well. The staff member that we met with said that Senator Duckworth was in support of all of our asks, including our third ask I didn't have time to mention before, which is that we were urging members of Congress to support the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act. This act would increase the SSI asset limit from $2,000 to $10,000 for individuals and index it to inflation, and it would increase the limit for couples from $3,000 to $20,000. Between this meeting and our second meeting, I decided to rush back to the hotel and get my rollator because it already had been way more walking than I anticipated, and I was already having a lot of pre-syncope with 3 more meetings to go. This meeting was also really great, and it ended up going much longer than we thought it would. And that was because we had a really excellent, really personal conversation with the staff member we met with, because they also had an autoimmune disease, so they knew what it was like to be chronically ill and having to navigate the medical system. And they found the statistic that there are fewer than 70 board-certified autonomic nervous system disorder specialists in the US for more than 40 million Americans with dysautonomia really staggering. I think sharing that really had an impact. That meeting went a bit longer than expected, so we had to rush across Capitol Hill to get to the buildings where the House offices were, and we ended up Ubering because there was no way we would have made it in time otherwise. Our 3rd meeting in Representative Davis's office and our 4th and final meeting in Representative Foster's office went really well. Unfortunately, I didn't get a picture or video of me in front of Representative Foster's plaque. By the time our 4th meeting ended, we were so exhausted, we were incredibly low on spoons, but we were really proud of ourselves and feeling really fulfilled. Even though we were feeling so exhausted and ready to collapse, it was really important to us that we went back to the Capitol building to get pictures. Now, I did take my mask off to take pictures really quickly, but I immediately put it back on after these pictures had been taken, and I thought the steps of the Capitol building was a really great place to film my intro for some of the interviews I've been doing throughout the day.
I'm on Capitol Hill and I'm interviewing dysautonomia patients.
I had to travel about 70 miles.
26 hours by car.
We're in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area. Been able to stay here. Really, Richmond is as far as we went.
I travel about an hour or so every time.
From Illinois to Florida.
Maybe just in 45 minutes or so.
Luckily not too far.
Luckily, I managed to get care within my own state.
Finishing up, I had 4 meetings. They all went really well. Everyone that we spoke to said that they are in support of all of the things that we are looking for. And it's been a very long day. We got here just before 9. It is currently 4:13 p.m. So I'm heading back to the hotel. I'm gonna take probably the best nap of my life. I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
So I'm back at the hotel. It is currently 5:48 p.m. and I'm exhausted. My entire body hurts. I feel stiff already. I know tomorrow is going to be miserable. To be honest, I know probably the next several days, if not weeks, are going to be miserable because I definitely overdid it, but it was really important to me that I make it to all 4 of my meetings, and somehow I made it happen, even though it was so hot and such a long day. So here I am. I'm gonna take a little nap, hopefully a little nap, because I wanna make sure I wake up and eat dinner. So yeah, I'm gonna take a nap. It literally feels so good to be horizontal. I could cry at how good this feels. Doing a body check-in right now, my feet are throbbing. They hurt so much. My hips are really stiff and tight. It's gonna be really hard to move tomorrow and probably in the coming days as well. My knees are really sore. Somehow I developed another bruise. I don't remember running into anything, but there is a bruise there. My hands are also throbbing, weirdly enough. That sometimes happens at night, even when I don't have days like this. My back is sore. I started having stomach pain kind of in my epigastric area, like where my gallbladder used to be. And I'm just so exhausted. I'm gonna try to nap a little and then get something in me for dinner. That was the best nap of my life. It's currently 8 p.m., almost exactly 7:59, and I'm probably gonna get some things real quick because I need to eat even though I'm not super hungry. I had chicken noodle soup from Panera for dinner, and then I started getting ready for bed. First I took a shower, which felt so good, but I did really miss having a shower chair. Of course, I made sure to take my medications, even though they kind of got stuck on the way down, as you can see. And unfortunately, that's something that's been happening to me pretty regularly lately. I don't feel good. Which is why I usually have to chase my medications with some kind of food like mini marshmallows or a cracker. Just drinking a liquid after, usually it's water, doesn't help push them down the rest of the way. The hardest part about my nighttime routine is definitely my teeth hygiene. Because I've noticed that I have a tendency, especially when I'm flossing my teeth, to hold my breath. And I only notice it when I'm like, wow, I'm blacking out. I wonder why. Oh, that's because I'm not breathing. What a concept. Don't forget to breathe. If I'm not so moisturized I look like I'm sweating, I don't want it. Time for bed. The air conditioning's not working. That's my own personal nightmare. But at least I have these 2 fans. I feel horrible. I feel really awful.
Waking up this morning and knowing that I had a day of travel ahead of me was so hard. It became very clear to me the moment I opened my eyes that it was going to test me not just physically but mentally and emotionally, which isn't a surprise. Chronic illness is all-encompassing. Leading up to this trip, I was really anxious. I was really afraid that I would get to DC and I wouldn't be able to do any of it. And somehow I did, and I surprised myself. So I just feel so empowered. I showed up while managing symptoms, while navigating fatigue and pushing through physical limitations that often go unseen. I'm so endlessly grateful for this opportunity and to Vitassium for bringing me along, and it's just made me even more passionate about patient advocacy, about advocating for those who are unable to advocate for themselves. I just really hope our meetings with representatives and their staff made a difference.